All right, welcome. This is DB Talking Now, DB Talking Birds, DB Talking Philadelphia Eagles. We have some breaking news to get to today, some big news to get to today. But first, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up a huge weekend that was a huge weekend for the Philadelphia Eagles. Starting off with the Eagles did hire Colts assistant Kevin Patullo to be the passing game coordinator. Number two, the Eagles hired Tracy Rocker, Auburn's defensive line coach, to coach the defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles. Number three, Eagles hired Jonathan Gannon, defensive Colts DB coach slash secondary coach, to be the defensive coordinator to the Philadelphia Eagles. As well as the Eagles did lose John Dorsey to the Lions. The Lions went ahead and brought John Dorsey into the front office to have a more prominent role. We'll go ahead and talk about that in a little bit. I do feel a little bit aggravated about that, just because I was excited about him possibly staying with the front office and being a consultant going into this offseason. Now, also, Deuce Staley asked to be released from his contract, and do not blame Deuce. Do not blame Deuce there. New report is today that Deuce Staley will be joining the Detroit Lions as assistant head coach slash running backs coach. So he will maintain the same role that he had with the Philadelphia Eagles with the Detroit Lions. Good for the Detroit Lions. They're getting a great coach and an even more phenomenal person. And then also today, the Eagles did fire Press Taylor, quarterbacks coach Press Taylor. So Press Taylor, thank God, will no longer be with the Philadelphia Eagles. And then also today, the Eagles hired former Chargers offensive coordinator Shane Steichen to be the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that is the big news for today. The Eagles hired Shane Steichen to be the offense coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Shane Steichen is credited with the development of rookie quarterback Justin Herbert, who had a phenomenal rookie season. And a few things that I want to go ahead and get into about these hires, and one of them, and it's actually more of opinions about the accumulation of the hiring of Kevin Patullo, the hiring of Shane Steichen. We're gonna go ahead and get into this real quick. I honestly understand if fans have some skepticism around these hires. I really do. I do understand. They're kind of names that we haven't heard of before. And it really does start off with our head coach. It does start off with our head coach. It does start off with Nick Sirianni. The one thing I absolutely do love about these hires, though, is that Nick Sirianni has brought over some assistants from Indianapolis. And I will go ahead and say this again. I love it because Indianapolis, their offense isn't the only thing that they've managed to turn around over the last few years. They have also turned around their defense. So they've really turned their team around as a whole, and they've gotten continuously better over the last 3 seasons. And Jonathan Gannon as the DB coach for the Indianapolis Colts, did a phenomenal job with the secondary, and did a phenomenal job with that defense, and knows what it's going to take to possibly build our defense back up. Obviously, he's seen what it looks like when you have the impact of drafting guys like Malik Hooker and Darius Leonard, and adding them into the defense. Because honestly, that's when their defense started to really turn around. In Darius Leonard's rookie season. He was all over the place. He was I'm pretty sure he was defensive rookie of the year candidate. So he was an absolute phenomenal addition for them. And that's when they really started to take off as a defense. That's when they really started to turn things around. Now I'm just going to start with the Kevin Patullo hire. I absolutely love Kevin Patullo's. I love Kevin Patullo's background. You know, he has a lot of history with the RPO and has a lot of understanding of the RPO concepts. And Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni seem to have really held him in high value and high regard, and really valued him over there in Indy as well. So that's really important. Whenever, especially when we're getting the approval of Frank Reich, because I'm pretty sure I speak for all Eagles fans when I say, we absolutely loved it when Frank Reich was here. We loved what he did, and also just to touch on that as well. What the Colts did was they took the 2017. They took this to the offense that the Eagles had in 2017. Frank Reich took it with him, and it evolved over the years in Indy. So we could possibly see something even more dynamic with Nick Sirianni this season, and that's the hope. Obviously, that is definitely the hope. And I also just want to address the youth of the coaches as well. I think that it's a good. I really do think it's a good thing that these coaches are younger. I feel like and this is my opinion. I feel like the younger coaches are a lot more likely to listen to the opinions of the players and get an idea of what they're thinking in terms of building concepts and building ideas for the offense and building packages for the offense. And that's what I believe that these hires are all about. It's not just about one guy. I've heard a lot of reports and I've heard a lot of talk about how these hires are all about fixing Carson Wentz. And do you think this is going to do it? Do you think this is going to finally do it? Do you think this is going to be a final piece that will help Carson get back to being the Carson that we all love and grew to appreciate? I don't think it's all about Carson Wentz. I think all of these hires are about, adding staff members that can bring a contrasting viewpoint that will help build different offensive concepts. And that's what I think is really going on here. That's what I really think that they're trying to do. And it's exciting. It's exciting. And I'm excited about it. And honestly, and I think that Shane Steichen, the hiring of Shane Steichen for offensive coordinator is another additional piece on that. And honestly, I think at the end of the day, just the fact that he's accredited with developing Justin Herbert, that's just the cherry on top. That's just the cherry on top of the entire thing. But I think the main thing is they're all bringing some sort of ability to be able to build different concepts to add to a dynamic offense. So that's what I'm really excited. That's what I'm really excited about. And as far as defensive line coach, Auburn's defensive line coach Tracy Rocker, who is coming over to coach the defensive line for us, I'm excited about that as well. They do have a pretty good defensive line over there. I'm pretty sure there are some good defensive line prospects coming out of Auburn in this year's draft class. So that could hint at possibly us, looking at a guy in the draft and bringing in a guy in the draft, and we'll just have to see how that plays out. There is a report that I do want to touch on. However, Mike Garafolo did talk about how Carson Wentz, how just because we fired Doug doesn't necessarily mean Carson Wentz is going to stay, and that Carson just does feel an overall unease with the organization. There's just something of a feeling that feels off with the rest of the organization. But that's why this is also important as well. There was also a report that Nick Sirianni did try and reach out to Carson Wentz over the weekend, and that's why that's going to be really important. So however that conversation goes, whenever they do talk, if they have talked already and we just haven't heard about it yet, that's all going to be really, really important. And that's what I kind of mentioned in previous streams is it's it's absolutely crucial that these guys kind of hit it off as quickly as possible. That's the hope, and we're hoping that they click like two peas in a pod. That's what we want. That's what we want. We want Carson to feel comfortable and phenomenal and great again in this organization. But along with that, of course, Carson will have to have conversations with management in the front office and Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. And if that's how he's really feeling, those are conversations that are going to need to be had. Those are conversations that are going to need to be had regardless. The other thing that I have to address as well is we also did let tight ends coach Justin Peel go. He is no longer with us. He will no longer be coaching the tight ends. Now I'm sure most of you saw my rant yesterday about Deuce Staley asking for his release from his contract, and I was absolutely 100% on board with it. He deserves to be in a place where he is appreciated. Now, obviously, in past reports and according to what we hear, everybody in the building respects Deuce Staley, but from Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, I mean, the way that they kind of played him over the last 7 years, since 2013, since he first interviewed for the head coaching job when they gave it to Chip Kelly, it's kind of been a beat around the bush sort of thing with Deuce Staley. And so that's kind of us just wrapping up. That's kind of just us wrapping up the entire weekend. And I'm really excited about the hire with Shane Steichen. I think that I'm more excited about the unknown potential of these hires than anything else. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Just because there is unknowns, it does leave a lot of potential on the table. And so that's kind of what makes it exciting. And I brought this up in previous streams as well. Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher talked about this. Is the one thing that Nick Sirianni and Frank Reich loved to do was get their playmakers the ball within 5 to 7 yards, which means all those routes, that we were all those packages that we were wanting to see from Jalen Reagor, where we could get him the ball in space so to get the yak, the yards after the catch. We might be able to see a lot more opportunities for that this season. That's the type of player that he is. That's what they should have been doing all along. The other thing is they converted wide receiver Naeem Hines, I think that's how you say his name, into a running back and used him in the slot. So for all of us who were screaming for Miles Sanders to be utilized in the slot in some packages, we might be able to see that a little bit more. So I think that just overall, and I really don't think it's that hard to believe. I just think that Doug just wasn't doing a good job. I think that that's the thing in question, is like, how could it possibly be so much better? Well, it could possibly be so much better by just a simple change, and Doug just seemed like stuck in his ways, and Carson needed somebody to trust, and just from the looks of it, from reading the tea leaves, it just seems like Doug just wanted to do things his way and didn't towards the end, and just didn't want to change. And I go back to something that Brian Westbrook said. I believe it was about week 5 or week 6, and he mentioned that from some of the people that he's heard that he knows in the organization, that they believe that Carson Wentz was the smartest quarterback that they've ever had in the building. And if that's the case, then you listen to the quarterback and you listen to his ideas and you listen to his opinions about what could possibly work moving forward. You just do. You don't have to adopt the entire thing, but you listen to ideas and you listen to what he thinks. And if that's the case, then I would understand if Carson would clash with Doug. And I think that that's it. I think that there was a clash of opinions and Doug wasn't willing to change. But enough on Doug. We're going to move on to Nick Sirianni, and we're going to move on to this new staff because it is hot and heavy, and it just filled out in a furious, fast and furious manner. So And there's a lot of youth along this staff. And so that means that, there's a lot of unknown potentials that could be tapped into. And there's a lot of excitement, obviously, that's going to be uncovered and unearthed. And so as an Eagles fan, I'm excited. And I think that they're gonna try and keep Carson Wentz. I think that, however, that stone is still unsolved and still unturned. And I think that Nick Sirianni definitely needs to try again and keep trying until he can reach Carson Wentz on the phone and have that conversation. And I think that the front office definitely needs to reach out to Carson Wentz and have that conversation, if that's their plan, is to move forward with Carson Wentz. And does Jalen Hurts get traded? Does Jalen Hurts get traded? That's the big question. Well, anyway, leave your questions, your comments, and your thoughts and opinions down in the comment box below. And please like and subscribe. I will be with you later today, and I will be with you tomorrow. We'll continue to talk about all of this going forward, and hopefully we can start to get some draft profiles going and start talk to you guys about some prospects. That would be absolutely phenomenal, and some free agency. That would be absolutely phenomenal. And just to brush on this as well, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. How about it? I think it's going to be a phenomenal Super Bowl, and I'm pulling for Andy Reid, but it's going to be pretty magical if Tom can win with can absolutely win with the Buccaneers. So, but I will be pulling for Andy Reid again, obviously, just because as an Eagles fan, he's always, as you guys probably know, there's always a special place in the heart for Andy Reid, for Big Red. So this is DB Talking Now, DB Talking Birds, DB Talking Philadelphia Eagles. Please like and subscribe. Go Birds, baby.